Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Okay, everybody, welcome. Happy Tuesday here live from the Bitcoin.com studio. Honored to be with you as always. Email us, freedom@charliekirk.com. We are going to start right out of the gate with a great man who's doing phenomenal work that deserves more praise and attention. It's all about energy dominance and rejecting the green scam of the left. It is the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. Mr. Secretary, welcome to the program. First time, great to see you. First, Mr. Secretary, you come from a very accomplished business career, and now you are in government. How has that transition been, and what have you learned now that you have to fight bureaucrats all day long and the environmental lobby?
Thanks for having me, Charlie. Yeah, look, I'm one of those people. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've always said I'm never going to be in government. They move slow. I don't even want to be in a big company. I want to be hard driving and make stuff happen. But in this government with President Trump, it is fast moving. It is business-like. If we want to lean in and take a risk, we should fix this policy. The president says, absolutely, find some more things to fix. So it isn't the slow-moving bureaucratic thing I feared under President Trump's leadership and the rest of the cabinet. So it is a wild change. My powers or ability to do things are quite different in the government than they are in business. But in this government, I'm highly confident we will make massive changes in these 4 years, and I'm proud and honored to be here to do it because it matters. We have needlessly victimized Americans with expensive energy and pushed industries overseas. That's just wrong, and with this president, we're going to stop it.
That's phenomenal to hear, and that's a great setup. So let's take a step back. Talk about what you inherited. What was the Department of Energy doing before your leadership under Joe Biden? What were their priorities? What were their investments? What was their worldview? And how does your now daily grind contrast with the last administration? You know, we talk a lot about, of course, the Ukraine-Russian war and ending that. We talk about the border. We talk about the economy. But the energy is literally, in the most literal sense, not metaphorically, the life force of a civilization. It is the lifeblood. You cannot have growth. You cannot have AI. You cannot have people flying from New York to L.A. affordably if you do not have energy. So talk about what you inherited, talk about what the previous Department of Energy was doing, and then contrast that with your work.
Yeah, so the previous Department of Energy, as you heard for those 4 years, and you didn't hear a lot for them, they were kind of behind the scenes, but they were part of this all-of-government battle against climate change, as they would describe it. So all of the money, all the focus, all the effort was on wind, solar, batteries, and electric vehicles. Collectively, wind, solar, and batteries are 3% of United States energy, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's 3% of our energy. And everywhere they've achieved meaningful penetration, you get more expensive electricity prices. So just a train wreck that was not going to change the energy system of the United States. And in fact, they actively stood in front of natural gas, our fastest growing source of energy and our fastest growing export. You heard about the LNG pause, and I don't know if I have time to go into that, but they actually did a whole report before the pause that showed economically it was positive for the United States, and it was going to slightly lower greenhouse gas emissions, more LNG exports. And they hated that answer so much they buried the report, never spoke about it. Although when I got in, we found it. A much longer report than they ultimately released later. But just so, again, they were against energy, the energy that powers our world. They were willing to be dishonest, and they thought all of the nonsense they were doing was somehow going to stop climate change and make the world safer. Just, again, also completely contrary to the facts and the data. So it's been quite a change.
Yeah, and so and you've taken on the entire kind of climate science world. Energy Department attacks client Simons in contentious report. By the way, you're in safe company here. We think this is all politicized. This is driven towards a environmentalist agenda that is trying to weaken American energy dominance. The agency asked 5 climate skeptics to write a report criticizing the consensus on global warming. First of all, science does not have consensus. This is a very important thing, right?
Right.
Science says nothing. Scientists say things, okay? Science never talks. Science is silent. This is a good thing that can apply to everything. Scientists say things. And scientists, like we learned during COVID, we learned during the lockdowns, learned during the vaccines, can say a lot of different things with the data. Now, again, global warming does not have consensus like the second law of thermodynamics. Global warming does not have consensus like a object at rest will stay at rest. Your reaction, Mr. Secretary, and how you think about this, because again, let me read this New York Times article. The consensus on global warming. What an outrageous claim. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I always give the contrast between the science, which is what the left likes, which is the opposite of science. Science is a process of challenge and engagement and debate and wrestling with data. And if the data doesn't agree with your model is wrong. Where the science is this top-down, authority-driven thing used with COVID, to me, was the climate movement. And fast forward, the science told you what to do. But as you said, Charlie, look at those critics. They critique the authors, 5 skeptics. Well, skeptical of what? They presented, these are 5 highly distinguished scientists. One of them was Undersecretary for Science in the Obama administration, provost at Caltech, PhD from MIT. All of those scientists were accomplished scientists that are also tired of this censorship of the science, censoring real science and real process of engagement. But even on my CNN interview a couple weeks ago, I went on to talk about the climate report. There are 0 questions about climate change, 0. They want to impugn the writers or impugn the way we reference people. They want to find little things. What we want to talk about is the data. Let's talk about climate science. Like, it's a real phenomenon. It's a slow-moving phenomenon, not even remotely close to the world's biggest problem, but it's used by the left to justify big government and top-down control of everything. Let's be honest. Let's engage in real science, as you said. That's what we're about. And I'm excited to have that debate over 4 years. We're going to end a lot of children's nightmares. We're going to end a lot of people trying to be pushed around and bullied by people that don't know what they're talking about. Like, I've spent 20 years studying climate science and physical data, and the people who are passionate about it never want to debate me because they don't know anything about it. But we're going to have that debate, whether they want it or not.
Science is a process. It doesn't tell you anything. People tell you. Science is a method. It's a methodology. And good science, which again is a verb, they act as if, well, science, puts something out. No, you do science. You go in exploration of truth. And then once you have a conclusion, you have to measure it, you have to analyze it, you have to inquire it, you have to cross-reference it. And by the way, we're bringing back that methodology to our government, RFK at HHS, and you at the Department of Energy. Last question, Secretary Chris Wright, doing a great job, Department of Energy. How are we going to be able to scale up our electricity output drastically in years to come? We see the United Kingdom with the highest electricity rates in the world. What is your plan to do that? Because Americans inherited very high electricity rates, and some are still paying too much in electricity. We need to solve that.
Exactly. And you mentioned the United Kingdom and Germany, 2 countries that went down the policy pathway the Biden administration wanted to go down. They tripled their electricity prices. They pushed all their industry out of their countries. And yet the Biden administration wanted to do that. That's just crazy. So we're going to bring common sense back to energy. We're going to let utilities and data center developers build what makes sense economically for them. We're not going to have mandates or subsidies to build unreliable electricity generating systems. People want to build solar, fine, go build it. But most all wind and solar and new transmission lines that have been built have been because they're heavily subsidized. We paid people to put unreliable electricity on the grid. We knew where that was leading, more expensive electricity and less stable grids. That's the direction we've gone. We're going to reverse that direction, build new generation. It'll, of course, in the short term, it'll mostly be natural gas. Nuclear will also come online, but we're going to let market forces make those decisions. Every state in America that has expensive electricity prices, they have it because the politicians chose it. It isn't bad luck. It isn't anything. It was chosen by their politicians. California decided to have expensive electricity and push their industry out and impoverish their people, as did New England and New York and now New Jersey. These are all bad choices.
This is one of the most important things happening in the country. Thank you so much, Secretary of Energy Chris Wright. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Great to be with you.
You were on top of your bills. Then inflation hit. Groceries, gas, everything shot up. Prices are up 26% from just a few years ago. It's not your fault you've fallen into debt. It's called Done with Debt. They're not like other debt relief companies. They don't push loans or bankruptcy on you. Unlike those others, Done with Debt moves lightning fast. Most clients see more money in their pocket month one. But a word to the wise, hurry, because some of their brilliant debt erasing strategies are quite time sensitive. Do not make another bill payment until you talk to a Done with Debt strategist. It is free. Visit donewithdebt.com. That is donewithdebt.com. Get out of debt today at donewithdebt.com. donewithdebt.com. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We recap a very eventful day at the White House next.